Welcome back to the deep dive.
Hmm.
Today, we're looking at something that honestly feels a little radical.
It really does.
It's this total reversal
Yeah.
of how professionals,
Hmm.
consultants, experts, freelancers are supposed to find work.
Right.
Our mission today is to really dive into the psychology of it,
Yeah.
how to flip that traditional consulting model completely on its head.
It's a big promise.
It is. We're talking about moving away from that anxious feeling of chasing clients to a place where high-value clients are actually chasing you.
And the source for this is so powerful because it's not academic. It's from the real world.
Tell us about that.
So our source is a consultant with over 30 years in quantity surveying.
Okay, so a very specialized, very technical field.
Exactly. And they built multiple successful firms, but only after decades of doing it the hard way, the painful way.
Let's talk about that struggle for a second, because I think everyone can relate to this. The normal model is just exhausting.
No, it's a huge energy drain.
You're constantly selling yourself, you're justifying your fees, you're explaining the absolute basics of what you do over and over.
The consultant literally called it begging for work. That was their phrase. They were just pouring hours into these proposals, chasing leads.
Explaining things like, what, the difference between a takeoff and an estimate?
Basic stuff, yeah. But the clients, they didn't see the difference. And all that effort, it usually just led to, radio silence.
Or worse.
Or worse. The clients who could smell the desperation and would just try to negotiate your rates down to nothing.
And that struggle really defines what it means to be a commodity. So here's the big reveal from the source. The secret.
Go on.
They stopped chasing completely. And instead, they started making potential clients qualify to work with them. They call it the Qualification Principle.
And that's the fundamental shift. The source realized their biggest mistake, and it's one that so many consultants make, was positioning themselves as just another supplier.
Okay, let's unpack that. Section 1.
Yeah.
The problem of being seen as a commodity.
Right.
The source used their own field as an example. They used to say things like, I do takeoffs, I do estimates, I work with anyone.
And that sounds fine, right? It sounds like you're open for business.
It sounds inclusive, yeah.
But the consequence is fatal for your pricing power. It's what our source calls desperation marketing.
Desperation marketing.
You're basically telling everyone your expertise is generic, it's interchangeable. So instantly, you're competing on price with every freelancer out there, every new grad.
So if I'm a client and you say, I do X for anyone, the only thing left for me to compare you on is, well, how much you charge.
Precisely. You lose all control. And even worse, you start attracting the clients who only care about low cost, not the quality of the work.
And the source said that when they were a commodity, nobody asked about their 30 years of experience.
Never. They only ask for their lowest number. You end up doing the hardest work for the least money, and often for the most difficult clients.
It sounds miserable, but let me just push back on that for a second. If you're a new consultant, you're just starting out. Don't you have to be broad? Just to get a portfolio, to get your name out there?
That is a fantastic question, and the source was really clear on this. Even when you're starting, you have to define a specific problem you solve.
Not just a task you do.
Exactly. A problem you solve for a specific type of person. So instead of I do estimates, you say something like, I help high-end residential builders minimize cost overruns.
Ah, so you're framing it as a result, not a service.
You're framing it as a targeted solution. You're still building your experience, but you're not a generalist. You're a specialist from day one.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's about being niche, not necessarily exclusive at the start.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's get to the really interesting part, the psychological engine that actually makes this whole reversal work.
This is where it gets good. The source ties it to a concept called psychological reactance.
Which is what exactly?
It's that innate human reaction we have when we feel our freedom is being threatened. When you're chasing a client, you're trying to force a sale. You're taking away their freedom to choose.
But when you introduce this qualification idea,
The whole dynamic changes instantly. And this is the core of Section 2. The moment you make someone feel they need to qualify to work with you, their brain just switches.
switches from what to what?
It goes from asking a really low-stakes question, which is, do I want this service, to a much more urgent, high-stakes question, am I good enough for this expert?
Wow. Okay, so you become the scarce resource.
Exactly.
That taps into something really deep in us. We value what we have to earn. An exclusive club, a rare item, getting into a top university.
That's a perfect analogy. You don't question the university's value, do you?
No, you question whether you meet their standards.
And that's the energy. That is exactly the energy you're trying to create. The consultant used the example of applying to a professional body like the RICS in the UK.
The Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors.
Right. You're stressed about meeting their criteria. You're not trying to negotiate their membership fee. That's the leverage.
So how do you do that? How do you translate that into that first awkward client phone call?
The source shared their opening move, and it's just beautifully simple.
Okay.
A potential client reaches out, and the first thing they say is something like, before we dive into your project, I want to make sure we're a good fit.
I want to make sure we're a good fit. Not you, not me, we.
Yes. And then they add, my approach works exceptionally well for certain types of projects, but honestly, not for all of them. And I'd hate for either of us to waste time if this isn't the right match.
That's brilliant, because you're immediately signaling that you have standards, you have criteria.
And the client's first thought isn't, oh, I'll go somewhere else. Their first thought is,
Wait, what are the criteria? Do I meet them?
they're already trying to qualify themselves. You've shifted the whole conversation from convince me to tell me what I need to do.
Which is the perfect setup for Section 3, the 4-stage qualification framework. This is where it goes from a cool psychological idea to an actual repeatable process.
Right. Stage 1 is what we just talked about, the qualification open. Establishing that need for a good fit right from the very beginning.
Then comes Stage 2, which feels crucial. Set your standards.
Yes. This is where you have to be specific. It's not enough to just say you want good clients. You have to define who you work with and, just as importantly, who you don't work with.
So what are some examples?
The sources examples from quantity surveying are great. Things like, I work best with clients who are past the shopping around phase.
Oh, I like that. It weeds out the tire kickers.
Immediately. Or, I work with companies that understand the value of accurate cost management and are ready to implement recommendations quickly.
And I love that they also define who they don't work with. It adds this necessary friction.
It does. They'd say, I don't work well with clients who need weeks to make a decision or are just looking for the cheapest option.
And they even had a financial one, right? A specific number.
Yes. I work with contractors generating over £2 million annually who value precision over price.
That £2 million marker is so important. It's a clear, quantifiable filter. It just screens out all the small, unstable firms that can drain your resources.
You have to define your floor.
Okay, that brings us to Stage 3, the reverse close. Now, normally after I've laid all this out, I'd go in for the kill, the pitch.
But the reverse close flips that entirely. Instead of asking for the sale, you ask the client to assess their own suitability.
How does that sound?
You'd say something like, based on what you've told me, this could work very well for you. Do you feel this aligns with what you're trying to achieve?
So you're not selling. You're letting them buy in. You're letting them commit to the process.
It empowers them, but it also forces them to make a real commitment right then and there.
And that leads into the last step, Stage 4, the final filter.
This is all about confirming their readiness to actually act. It tests if they're mentally and logistically ready to go.
And the example question for this is powerful. It was something like, perfect. Just to confirm, you're ready to start within the next 2 weeks.
Yes, and then the reason. Because our methods only deliver results when clients can implement things quickly.
That time frame test is just brilliant.
Isn't it? If the client starts hemming and hawing, saying they need 3 months to get approval or find funding,
It's a red flag.
a massive red flag. You haven't wasted weeks on a proposal for a project that was just going to die a slow death anyway. You're protecting your own success rate.
This all sounds incredibly strategic, but I have to ask the obvious question. Don't you risk alienating good clients once you lose business by being this selective?
That is the big fear, isn't it? The fear of scarcity. But if we connect this to the bigger picture in Section 4, that fear is based on the old commodity mindset.
Explain that.
In any expertise-driven field, being selective is the ultimate signal of value. It communicates that your knowledge is limited, it's valuable, and it's in demand.
So turning away 3 projects that weren't a great fit.
Frees you up to absolutely crush it for the one client who is a perfect fit. The one who will pay you a premium and sing your praises.
So a client would rather pay more to work with someone who has high standards than get a discount from someone who will take anything. That actually validates your expertise in their eyes.
Exactly. But this requires a huge internal shift. It's the mindset shift. You have to stop thinking like an employee looking for work and start thinking like a specialist, choosing which problems deserve your attention.
You're not desperate for a client. You're looking for the best opportunity to apply your skills.
Right.
But, and this is but you can't fake this, can you? The source had a big cautionary note here.
A huge one.
Ah.
This whole framework only works if your selectivity is genuine.
Meaning,
You have to have built the expertise first. You need the results to back it up. If you're super selective, but your work is just mediocre, you're not discerning, you're just arrogant.
and clients will see right through that.
Instantly, this is an earned standard, not a marketing trick. Your confidence has to come from your past performance.
That's the essential piece.
Yeah.
You have to be able to back it up.
And remember, the goal here is quality, not quantity. You might lose 80% of your old leads, the rate shoppers, but that remaining 20%,
Those are your ideal clients.
high value, high compliance, and highly profitable. They respect you, they do the work, and you get better results for them, which builds your reputation even more.
Okay, so let's distill this down. For you, listening right now, what does this all mean today? The source recommends 3 immediate actionable steps.
First, stop talking about what you do. Start talking about the specific, quantifiable results you deliver for a very defined type of client. You need to sit down and actually write out your ideal client criteria.
Be specific. Use filters. Budget size, readiness to start, whatever it is for your field.
Second, practice your qualification questions. Say them out loud until they feel completely natural and not like you're reading from a script.
You have to own it.
You do. And third, and this is the big one, in your very next client conversation, start by qualifying them. Don't pitch yourself. Shift the burden of proof from the very first minute.
The goal isn't to be difficult.
No. The goal is to be discerning. In a specialist market, discernment is the highest signal of value.
And that brings us to our final thought for the week. The consultant said something that really stuck with me.
What was that?
Confused minds don't buy, but qualified minds that feel they've earned their place, they become your best clients.
I love that.
So think about that. What specific, quantifiable criteria could you genuinely establish today? Criteria you can stand behind and back up with your results.
What's your £2 million equivalent?
Right. If you had to define that standard right now, what would it be? And how would knowing that and owning it change the confidence you bring to your very next client conversation?
Define your standard, and then hold to it.
We'll leave you with that challenge. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time.